What's going on, everyone? My name is Derek with Derek's Help Desk, where we go over common IT issues and their solutions. This will hopefully be the first video of many on this channel. So to get started today, we're going to look at some issues here on a ticketing system called OS Ticket. This is a free open source software you can download, and you can use it for your business or for yourself. I just got some common issues that I made with just some fake names. As you can see, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So let's take a look here. So we have one here from well, this one's priority high, so let's look at this first. So Jenny Natriel says, "Hi, I'm Jenny with the support team. I started last week but seem to have forgotten my login. Can you reset it? Thanks." So if you're in the administrator account, you could go to the admin panel and then go to agents, and you can see she's right here, right? So we scroll down and we can go to set password and we can send them a reset email, right? So I'm not going to reset it because this is not real. But now let's go back to the agent panel and solve some of these other issues. So Mon Mothma says, "Hi, my computer still seems to be having issues after rolling back drivers. I've even tried running the sfc command and it tells me I can't fix the files. What should I do?" So at this point, if you try to already go through a few steps to restore some files and you're still noticing the system is corrupt and quite slow, this is where you would probably go to a restore point. So you can see here, system restore, create a restore point. So from here, I would advise her how to access this, by just in your search bar typing system restore. And then if the business is doing everything right, then they should have a restore point at every specific interval when a new program is installed, for example. And then you could go to system restore and then recommended restore, right? So for Mon Mothma, that would be my best bet, and then I would follow up after that. All right, up next. So we have Dash Rendar saying, "Hey, I've got this issue with my machine where when I try to start it up, it gives several beeps. I think one was a long beep and two short ones. What does this mean? Can you help?" So if we look here, this is straight out of Wikipedia. Post beep codes on the CompTIA A+ certification exam. These are the most common ones that we deal with. So let's go through here. It's not steady short beeps, it's not long continuous beeps. If we go to the bottom, we can see one long, two short beeps. That's what he described, right? Which this means a video card failure, a GPU failure. So at this point, we would ask him, well, you could open up the machine, try and reseat the GPU, make sure it's connected in there properly, and then go through and see if that works. If not, you would start to think, okay, let's replace the video card at this point, right? So yeah, step one, reseat it. Step two, if that doesn't work, replace the video card. Maybe it's going bad. I'm gonna go ahead and close out that ticket. And then now let's move on to the next one here. So we have one from Mara Jade, multiple docs in queue, but not printing. So she says, "Hi, we're having huge issues at the office here. There's several document print jobs in the queue, but none of them are printing. What's the best way to fix? Thanks so much." So most commonly, this will be related to the print spooler. So if you type Windows R, you can type services.msc, and this will bring up your services panel, right? It shows you all the services running on your machine. So we could advise her to go into her services, scroll down to print spooler, this one right here, right? And then click restart. And if at that point it still doesn't fix the issue, we would advise her just reset the machines. Just reset all the machines, and ideally that would fix the problem. So now, oh no, blue screen of death. So Wes Jansen says, whenever I try turning on my computer, it gives me a blue screen with a message, your computer ran into an error it couldn't handle and needs to restart. I've tried to reset multiple times and it gives me the same message. Can you help me please? Thanks. So one of the most common issues with blue screen of death is actually improperly seated RAM or a faulty RAM. So we could ask him to open up his machine, reseat the RAM, and try that out, right? If that doesn't work, we could advise him to use the SFC file checker, right? So that would be, again, get him to open the administrator command prompt and then SFC/scan now. Try and scan the files, right? If he can't find anything at this point, I would advise him to get some new RAM, and then hopefully that would fix the issue. So we have another issue with printers. So Fix Natui says, hi, I've been trying to print documents for a report. However, there seems to be nothing but garbled characters printed on the page. What's going on? So if you know anything about printers, there's two of the most commonly used printer driver languages is PCL and PostScript, right? PostScript is for Apple related products usually, Mac, that kind of thing. So what's probably happening is they've installed the wrong driver. So it can't understand what the machine is trying to say, they can't connect. So what they would do is try and uninstall, reinstall the correct drivers for that particular printer, and that would fix the issue. That would be the most likely fix in this circumstance. So let's go back here. So who is this? Wedge Antilles says, whenever I take my laptop to a cafe or public Wi-Fi, I can't access the captive portal. The browser returns the screen, DNS probe finished, no internet. I turned off and on the Wi-Fi multiple times and tried self-assigning my own IP to no avail. What might be the issue? So this is actually an issue that I encountered that I was very frustrated with. I went to my local library and for some reason I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi, right? I could connect on my other laptop, but not my older laptop. So I thought at first, oh, maybe it's an outdated driver, maybe it just can't connect to this Wi-Fi, it's too old. But then I thought, aha, you go into the IP settings and I realized that I was using the Cloudflare DNS. So when you use a custom DNS, sometimes the rerouting for a captive portal won't respond correctly. So at this point, I would recommend Wedge to remove the custom DNS and try that out. And then if that does not work, I would suggest an IP flush and IP stop, and then try and get him to reconnect the IP using the command prompt. So those would be my most practical solutions for that one. So I'm sure we've seen this one a lot. Hans Solomon says, hello. Recently my computer has become very slow, especially on startup. I'm worried my children may have installed a virus or a bad program. Help please. Well, what's the most obvious thing we could think here? Well, run the antivirus, right? Whether it's Windows Defender or third party, make sure he runs a virus scan, see if there's anything going on there. If he still says the problem persists after that, well, let's do this, right? Tell him to go into his task manager and look at his processes and performance, right? So performance shows, obviously, where most of the problems are coming from, right? Is it CPU, GPU? And then the processes, right? Maybe something's running in the background that he doesn't need. And then a big one, he said, especially at startup, it's slow. So we could look here at startup, and you can see the startup impact here, right? High, high. So if he has something newly installed that he doesn't want, maybe he wants to disable it, right? So if he disables that or uninstalls that service, maybe that would get things going a bit quicker for him. Again, we could also recommend him to use the system file checker, right? Scan now, scan for any system files that may be corrupt, possibly limiting his system. And if he's still having issues after all of this, maybe he just got an update on his computer to a new Windows operating system and he just doesn't have enough RAM, right? So if you go through all these issues and processes with him, still has issues, tell him to get some more RAM for his computer so that way it can handle more programs running at once, right? So let's take a look at the next one on the list here. So it's from Benjamin Kenobi. He says Wi-Fi slow in office during the day. Look at the details here. Hello, I have just opened a new office on the 5th floor of the Tashi Station Enterprises downtown. For some reason, even though not many people are using the Wi-Fi, the internet becomes very slow during peak business hours. What do you think might be the issue? Thanks. So the first thing we could ask him is, well, have any new programs been installed recently that are maybe very bandwidth heavy? All it takes is maybe 1 or 2 people using a bandwidth heavy program. If he confirms no one's doing anything like that, well, ask him what frequency of Wi-Fi is he using, right? Is he using 2.4 gigahertz? Is he using 5 gigahertz? If we look at the table here, we can see these are the 3 non-overlapping channels for 2.4 gigahertz, right? We have 1, 6, and 11. So maybe the problem is all the businesses in the area, and his business included, are using channel 1. So all he has to do is switch to channel 6 or channel 11. If that doesn't fix the issue after he changes the settings, we could just tell him, well, then use 5 gigahertz, right? Some key things to keep in mind with 5 gigahertz is just letting him know it doesn't have as good of range, it doesn't penetrate barriers as well, so you might have to set up a few more access points, right? So those would be my recommendations for Ben Kenobi. And then this last one here by Lucas Skywalker says, hi. Ever since I moved the desktop computer from my basement to my living room, it seems to shut off after a few minutes. It's almost a brand new computer. What do you think could be the issue? Thanks. So most commonly, when you think of computers turning off randomly, it would be related to cooling, right? Something to do with the cooling. He does mention it's a brand new computer, but what we could do still is recommend him to download this program called HW Monitor. This can actually check the temperatures of your CPU, your GPU. That way you know if it's a cooling issue or not. If he scans and he says, no, everything's still fine, well, then we probably move on to thinking that it could be a power supply issue, right? Maybe it's an old house and maybe the outlet he's plugged into, maybe the wiring isn't that great, right? So it's causing voltage to go up and down, having a brownout, so just shutting off the system. So ask him to plug it into a different outlet and see if that one works. If he does that and it still is having issues, we would then think, oh well, it's the actual power supply itself. So then we would recommend him, maybe it's a defective PSU, go replace the PSU, and at that point I think the problem should be fixed. So that's it for the issues we're going through today. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks.